Hi, and welcome to another episode of Punk Rock Politics with John Smith. We're gonna discuss. Sorry, it's weird. I'm supposed to be looking at this little camera right here, and I keep looking over here for some reason, and I gotta get used to that. So we're gonna show a quick video by Bernie Sanders talking about how Donald Trump is ignoring healthcare experts. And this is a little older. It was from last week, but it's very important. In fact, I saw something, a question from a reporter asking Donald Trump at one of his daily press briefings, White House press briefings, about, I believe that it was the governor of Florida, and how he's going to allow, even though in a lockdown, he's going to allow massive congregations of religious people to get together, which is putting us all at risk and is asinine. It's putting them at risk. It's putting everybody at risk. So here's a quick video from Bernie Sanders on his YouTube page. You should go to it, Bernie Sanders, and I get alerts. You should subscribe to his channel, and you should subscribe to Punk Rock Politics. Double click the button and make sure you get the little parenthesis things around the bell so you get all updates and future updates from all my content I'm putting out, and you know when I put out a new video. And make sure to go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics and become a patron today. Here's the video. And after the video, we will discuss this whole situation.
Easter Sunday, and you'll have packed churches all over our country.
What he is saying is totally absurd and extremely dangerous, and it is an embarrassment that the American people have to be told to completely ignore what the President of the United States is saying.
I would love to aim it right at Easter Sunday, so we're open for church service and services.
Oh yeah, come to church on Easter, sit next to somebody else. Why don't you spread the virus so that we'll never get rid of this pandemic?
I would love to have the country opened up and just raring to go by Easter.
You were talking about a president who is speaking in opposition to all of the major medical advisors in our own government and in this country.
No one is going to want to tone down things when you see what's going on in a place like New York City.
You got a president who is arrogant, who is ignorant, who is self-centered. And to me, I mean, this is as dangerous as he gets in suggesting people to defy what the healthcare experts are telling us.
I think people might get the misinterpretation. You're just going to lift everything up, and even somebody's going like that. That's not going to happen. It's going to be looking at the data.
I think it would be a beautiful time. I just thought it was a beautiful time. It would be a beautiful time, a beautiful timeline. It was based on a certain level of weeks from the time we started. And it happened to arrive, actually, we were thinking in terms of sooner.
You have all over the world, countries, obviously including our own, New York, Washington State, the whole country, dealing with the pandemic, with a huge increase in the number of people who are infected, people who are dying. And what all of the experts tell us is that we need to distance ourselves from each other. In many states now, people are being asked to stay home. Congregations should not be any larger than 2 or maybe 10 people, and keep your distance.
I'd love to have it open by Easter. Easter is our timeline. What a great timeline that would be.
It is in defiance, and dangerously in defiance, of what the medical experts are telling us. This is a moment when you got to listen to the epidemiologists, you got to listen to the infectious disease experts. We got to do what they say. And what they're saying is, right now, we have got to do everything possible to prevent the spread of the epidemic. That means social distancing. And social distancing is not being packed into a church or any other room where you can infect somebody else, so that we never get an end to this epidemic.
So, you saw the video. And what Trump's saying there is ridiculous. This is a while back. But also the mayor of Florida, and he was ignoring the question from a reporter today who was asking him at the White House press briefing, you know, you're going to allow the mayor of Florida, who says he's going to allow large congregations of religious people to still get together, which is endangering them and endangering everybody around them who they could spread the virus to. Just absurd. So we're going to read through a few articles. I think that video speaks for itself. We're going to read a few quick articles, or maybe not quick. We're going to read some articles that I'm reading just now, and then we're going to discuss what they mean. So this is from The Hill. It's more about what Bernie Sanders is talking about. Trump ignores science at our own peril. This is March 28th, 2020 at 4 p.m. This is by Ellington Now, excuse me, this is by Elliot Negan, opinion contributor. Okay. Like the actors in a famous 1980s cough syrup commercial, Donald Trump is not a doctor, but he plays one on TV. During a March 24th Fox News town hall from the White House Rose Garden, the president compared the coronavirus to the flu and suggested easing social isolation protocols and returning to business as usual by Easter. Just a few days earlier, he tweeted that an anti-malaria drug coupled with a common antibiotic could cure COVID-19 and should be put into use immediately. If you were not aware, I believe I discovered this in another video. Yeah, I did. With a global headlines video, I did. I read a bunch of headlines and then discussed it from Democracy Now! And two people, I believe it was in Nigeria, and forgive me if I'm wrong about the country, Nigeria or Somalia, I think it was Nigeria, took these anti-malaria medications to try and get over COVID-19 and they died. So that's what happens when a president, especially a president of the United States of America, the most powerful nation on earth, and the wealthiest, who's not really taking care of his people, that's what happens when the president lies to people. And he's not the first one to do it, but hopefully he will be the last, and we should elect Bernie Sanders, who tells the truth about these things and fights for all of us. Now, I'll continue the article. Trump's recommendations for treating the coronavirus prompted swift condemnation from public health experts. First, COVID-19, for which there is no preventative vaccine or cure, is twice as contagious as the flu and significantly more deadly. Second, allowing U.S. businesses to reopen and people to go back to work as early as April 12th would likely result in millions of additional unnecessary deaths. And third, the malaria drug Trump prescribed, hydroxychloroquine, has not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration as safe and effective against the coronavirus. Even so, Trump's tweet had an immediate impact, triggering panic buying, skyrocketing prices, and overdoses in malaria-prone regions in Africa and South Asia. U.S.-based doctors, who should know better, are reportedly hoarding it and other related non-approved drugs by writing prescriptions for themselves and their families. As outrageous as Trump's ill-advised comments were, they shouldn't come as a surprise. They were merely the most recent examples of the Trump administration's unrelenting assault on public health and environmental protections. Indeed, since taking office, the administration has launched more than 130 attacks on science, more than the George W. Bush administration amassed over its 2 4-year terms. Included in that list are cases in which the administration hindered data collection, censored and suppressed studies, and implemented rules that failed to follow the best available science. In addition, the administration has rolled back or eliminated nearly 100 environmental rules and regulations. When courts struck down its illegal attempts to eviscerate environmental safeguards, it often failed to enforce them, even before the Environmental Protection Agency announced on March 26 that it will relax its rules in response to the coronavirus pandemic, giving companies what former EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy called an open license to pollute. During Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, he promised to drain the swamp in Washington. Many believed that he was going to rid the nation's capital of the army of special interest lobbyists that far outnumber members of Congress. Instead, he handed over the keys to the government to corporate lobbyists and sacked members of what he derisively called the deep state, the dedicated career civil servants, including scientists, who work from administration to administration on behalf of the public interest. During its first 2 years in office, the Trump administration pushed more than 1,600 federal scientists out the door, most notably social scientists, soil conservationists, hydrologists, and experts in the physical sciences, chemistry, geology, astronomy, and physics, according to a Washington Post investigation. At the same time, the administration sidelined, muzzled, and canned federal scientists. It has been eliminating independent advisory committees that in some cases have been providing technical advice to the government for decades. In fiscal year 2018, there were approximately 1,000 advisory committees with more than 60,000 top experts advising federal agencies on a range of issues, from pollution control to nutrition guidelines to transportation safety. Nearly 600 of the committees are required by law. The Trump administration started shutting down advisory committees soon after it took office, and by June 2019, the president issued an executive order requiring all federal agencies to purge at least a third of roughly 400 non-mandated panels by the end of last September. The administration has not released a list of terminated committees, but my organization, the Union of Concerned Scientists, has been able to confirm that more than 50 have been targeted for elimination thus far, and at least 10 have been cut as a result of the executive order. Arbitrarily axing federal experts and outside advisors can have serious consequences. A prime, well-documented example is what happened to the unit inside the White House National Security Council that was established after the Ebola epidemic of 2014 to prepare for health emergencies. When John Bolton became the president's national security advisor in 2018, he halved the NSC staff from around 250 to 110 and eliminated the Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense, despite President Trump's claim that the coronavirus came out of nowhere and blindsided the world. NCS's Global Health Directorate has been warning about the potential for pandemic for years. While Americans focus on the pandemic, the administration has intensified its campaign to gut environmental safeguards by the end of the year. Its proposed rollbacks include weakening requirements to consider climate change in infrastructure project environmental reviews and relaxing controls on coal power plant mercury emissions and toxic ash ponds. Perhaps the administration's most damaging wrecking ball agenda item is one that has been on polluting industry's wish list for years but has never been able to win congressional approval. Ostensibly to promote transparency in rulemaking, it would handcuff the EPA by prohibiting it from using scientific studies that do not make underlying data publicly available so that the research can be independently verified. Studies that rely on confidential personnel health data would not pass muster, making it difficult, if not impossible, to make the case that industry should curb air and water emissions to protect public health. Ironically enough, according to the American Public Health Association, it could be used to reject research involving pandemics like the coronavirus. If this pandemic has taught us anything, we ignore science at our own peril. If this pandemic has taught us anything, it is we ignore science at our own peril. Elliot Negin is a senior writer for the Union of Concerned Scientists, was a foreign news editor at National Public Radio, the managing editor of American Journalism Review, and the editor of the Nuclear Times and Public Citizen magazines. All right, that's just one article there discussing Trump's ignoring of science, saying how it was even way farther worse than the George W. Bush administration, which is pretty hard to fathom if you know anything about that, but that's not a topic that we're going to get into right now. But we're going to keep reading articles, and then we're going to discuss the overall image of what's going on and what it means for us. Okay, let's see. Here's an article from Common Dreams, and it says, it's titled, All About Power, Ignoring Experts, Trump Reportedly Moving to Lift Coronavirus Restrictions Over Re-Election Fears. Listen to this. Trump and allied Republicans fear that he will be hampered in his re-election with a bad economy. And that, in turn, matters more than anything else. Science, hospitals, social cohesion, and now human life. By Jake Johnson, staff writer, on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. Worried that the tumultuous stock market and soaring unemployment are imperiling his chances of re-election in November, President Donald Trump is defying the internal and public pleas of his administration's own health experts and moving toward lifting federal coronavirus prevention guidelines in an effort to jumpstart the flagging economy. If we let up now, we can be virtually certain that healthcare will be overwhelmed in many, if not all, parts of the country. This is the view of every well-informed infectious epidemiologist I know of. Mark Lipschitz, Harvard. That's according to the Washington Post, which reported Monday that Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, is privately warning the White House officials do not listen to growing calls from right-wing economists, Fox News pundits, business leaders, and Republican politicians to loosen federal guidelines aimed at slowing the spread of COVID-19, which has officially infected at least 43,000 people and killed more than 530 in the United States. The numbers are way higher now. They're way higher. Today alone, we broke records. It's disturbing and sad. And I hope if anybody out there is affected by coronavirus, I really hope that you get over it and you get the help you need, and that we pass laws that make sure everybody is treated and doesn't have to pay for it. And I'm very sorry if anybody lost anybody from this virus. I'm obviously sorry if anybody lost anybody in general, but I'm particularly sorry that because of government incompetence, greed, and megalomania, people are dying and suffering and worried, sick. And can't even have funerals in most places, which is very sad. And if they can only have a few people there. It's a very hard way to grieve and to get over that hurt when you can't have, you know, a service and mourn and share the love you had for somebody. Anyway, Trump is fixated on the economy, alarmed by the effects of the coronavirus so far, and concerned about the impact of long-term contraction and surging unemployment on his re-election chances in November, the Post reported, citing anonymous people familiar with the president's internal discussions. Though restrictions on restaurants and other businesses have been set by state governments, the Post noted, the president could influence practices if he changed the federal government's guidelines about social distancing and business closures. This is a text from Sam Stein, and it's at Sam Stein, Stein. At the end of the day, this is all about power. Trump and allied Republicans fear that he will be hampered in his re-election with a bad economy, and that in turn matters more than anything else. Science, hospitals, social cohesion, and now human life. It's all about power. So anyway, during a press conference briefing on Monday, Trump confirmed that he is leaning toward lifting federal guidelines urging people to stay at home as much as possible, while admitting that medical professionals within his administration have not endorsed the idea. The president also repeated his claim, first made in an all-caps tweet Sunday night, that economic troubles caused by coronavirus prevention measures could outweigh the human cost of the virus itself. The doctors, if it was up to the doctors, they'd say, let's shut down the entire world, Trump told reporters. Asked if Fauci, who did not attend Monday's briefing, agrees with his push to lift federal guidelines, Trump replied, he doesn't not agree. I don't know if it's a typo or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's not. He doesn't not agree, or he doesn't agree. Does not agree would actually mean he agrees. I don't know if that was intentional or a subliminal thing, but he means he doesn't agree. Or it's a typo. Sorry, well, it's the way the article is. We'll be back in business as a country pretty soon, Trump said. You'll be hearing about that also pretty soon. Trump's push to lift social distancing guidelines come as health experts, including the president's own Surgeon General, are warning that the coronavirus threat is intensifying, not subsiding. On Monday alone, the U.S. reported more than 100 coronavirus deaths nationwide. Again, this is an older article, and they have gone up far worse. I want America to understand this week, it's going to get bad, Surgeon General Jerome Adams warned Monday morning. Right now, there are not enough people out there who are taking this seriously. Everyone needs to act as if they have the virus right now. So test or no test, we need you to understand that you could be spreading it to someone else, or you could be getting it from someone else. Stay at home. All signs point to the crisis getting worse, and the man in charge is putting his own political interests before the lives of Americans. Aaron Ruper from Vox. According to the Post, one option the Trump administration is considering is a gradual scaling back of current restrictions where people younger than 40 who are healthy go back to work on a certain date, followed by people ages 40 to 50. Mark Lipschitz, an epidemiology professor at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and director of Harvard Center for Communicable Diseases. Sorry, let me read that again. Mark Lipschitz, an epidemiology professor at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and director of Harvard Center for Communicable Disease Dynamics, told the Post that lifting federal guidelines at this moment could have disastrous consequences for public health. Now is the time to tighten restrictions on contacts that could transmit the virus, not loosen them, Lipschitz said. If we let up now, we can be virtually certain that healthcare will be overwhelmed in many, if not all, parts of the country. This is the view of every well-informed infectious epidemiologist I know of. As Vox's Aaron Ruper wrote late Monday, Trump's sudden swing from calling for a 15-day crackdown to doubting the science it's based on less than halfway through is emblematic of his reckless approach to combating the coronavirus. All signs point to the crisis getting worse, Ruper added, and the man in charge is putting his own political interests before the lives of Americans. Here's another quick video from The Guardian of Donald Trump speaking, and then we're going to read the article and discuss after.
They've been delivering for years 10 to 20,000 masks. Okay, it's a New York hospital, it's packed all the time. How do you go from 10 to 20 to 300,000? 10 to 20,000 masks to 300,000, even though this is different. Something's going on, and you ought to look into it as reporters. Where are the masks going? Are they going out the back door?
Were you suggesting there has been inappropriate use of masks or improper conduct with supplies?
No, I want the people in New York to check Governor Cuomo, Mayor de Blasio, that when a hospital that's getting 10,000 masks goes to 300,000 masks during the same period, people should check that because there's something going on. It's not. I don't think it's hoarding. I think it's maybe worse than hoarding. But check it out. Check it out. I don't know. I think that's for other people to figure out.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yesterday, why did you publicly threaten quarantine on New York, New Jersey, parts
I
of
didn't do
Connecticut?
that at all. Read the statement. Read the statement. Read what I said. I said we're going to look into possibly quarantine. I didn't say we're going to quarantine.
You've said repeatedly that you think that some of the equipment that governors are requesting they don't actually need. You said New York might need
I
might
didn't
not
say
need
that. I didn't
30,000.
say that.
You said it on
I didn't
Sean
say- come
Hannity's
on,
Fox News.
come
You
on.
said
You know,
that
why
you
don't,
might.
why don't you
some-
people act? Let me ask you.
You said
why
some
don't you
state-
act? Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to
My
get
question
you,
to you
get you. And you know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore.
My
That's
question
why
to you is, how is that gonna
Excuse
impact?
me, you didn't hear me. That's why you used to work for the Times and now you work for somebody else. Look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't
Mr.
be
President, my
threatening.
question
Don't be
is-
threatening. Be nice.
What a clown. So Donald Trump wants the media to be nice to him. Now that may sound innocuous or unimportant to you, but what that actually means is that he wants the media to rubber stamp whatever he says and not hold him to account, which is authoritarian, which is something a dictator says. And then works to discredit the media. Now don't get me wrong, the corporate mainstream media is definitely good at coming after Trump. They are not good at holding corporate elites and corporate Democrats to account. Although in a situation we currently have, many of the Democrats are still better than the Republican Party and what they're putting out there and how they're rubber stamping everything Donald Trump says and lying for him. But that's just an absurd thing that you just watched. He lies constantly. And then he says when somebody, like, he's the president of the United States, the most powerful position in the world, arguably, or one of the most. And he's sitting there saying, like, don't, gotcha. What, you mean say, hey, these are the words that you said to the American people on public national television or on cable news, on Fox News. And what do you have to say? And he just cuts him off and doesn't even let her talk. And then insults her for switching job positions, going from the New York Times to somewhere else, saying that she's like bad at reporting and she's mean, so that's why that happened. When there could be a slew of reasons why she left that are really none of our business. I mean, you know, unless it's of public concern. Anyway, this guy is just incredible. And the environmental regulation thing is something that I'm going to get more and more into, but there's just so much news for me to catch you guys up on. So I hope if you missed these stories, you appreciate the video I put out tonight, and the video is going to put on later in the morning and tomorrow all day. So we'll read the article real quick, and then I might read another article, but we'll see. I hope people are tuning in. I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel and go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics and, become a member and help support Punk Rock Politics so I can keep this afloat and so I can give more and more content and start putting things on screens professionally so they'll be nice and pretty and, doing more videos and just streamlining the whole thing, making it more efficient so I can put out more content and, having live streaming so you guys could all comment while I cover live news without it getting interrupted and without commercials popping up on the screen and all this stuff. So let's read the article that this video was on top of. Coronavirus outbreak. Trump says keeping U.S. COVID-19 deaths to 100,000 would be a very good job. President extends social distancing rules to the 30th of April, saying open for Easter plans were only aspirational. This is by David Smith. What's up, Mr. Smith? Fellow Smith. David Smith in Washington. He's on Twitter at Smith in America. This is from Sunday, this past Sunday the 29th of March, 2020. Donald Trump has extended America's national shutdown for a month, bowing to public health experts and scientific reality, and warning that the worst of the coronavirus pandemic is yet to come. Speaking in the White House Rose Garden, the U.S. president claimed that if his administration keeps the death toll to 100,000, it will have been a very good job. A startling shift from his optimistic predictions of a few days ago when he said he hoped to restart the economy by Easter. Trump also undermined his plea for unity by uttering falsehoods, verbally abusing reporters, and making incendiary allegations that implied healthcare workers were stealing masks without providing evidence. The extended deadline marked a humiliating retreat for the president, who, having squandered 6 precious weeks at the start of the pandemic, more recently complained that the cure is worse than the problem and floated Easter Sunday as a beautiful timeline for reopening big swaths of the country. On Sunday, he claimed this had only been aspirational, as his advisors urged him not to move too hastily. He announced the initial 15-day period of social distancing urged by the federal government, which was due to expire on Monday, would be extended to the 30th of April, and said he hoped normality might return by the 1st of June. The guidelines recommend against big group gatherings and urge older people and anyone with existing health problems to stay at home. People were also urged to work at home when possible and avoid restaurants, bars, non-essential travel, and shopping trips. The modeling estimates that the peak in death rate is likely to hit in 2 weeks, Trump told reporters, with the toll already at more than 2,400 people. Nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. That would be the greatest loss of all. He added, "We can expect by June 1st we will be well on our way to recovery." The shift came as the full horror of the pandemic appeared to dawn on a president who long downplayed it. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the government's top infectious disease expert, said the U.S. could experience more than 100,000 deaths and millions of infections. Fauci praised the extension as a wise and prudent decision. Trump cited projection models that said potentially 2.2. Let me just stop here. Yeah, he had to praise it as a wise and prudent decision because Donald Trump needs to be praised like a spoiled little brat baby, wealthy elite liar that he is. He needs to be constantly, everybody kisses his ass. Excuse my language, but they just, no, it's punk rock politics. They kiss his ass, and if they don't, then they can't get through to him, which is just pathetic and demeaning to the people, and it's just pathetic for Donald Trump, and it's pathetic and sad that people have to do this to protect public health. But I appreciate Fauci doing what needs to be done to influence the president to do the sensible and scientific thing and keep us more safe, since he already bundled this, and these deaths are on President Trump and his incompetence, his lies, and his ridiculous statements about this not being serious and using anti-malaria drugs to save you. Donald Trump is a danger to society, and, just to be clear, so is Joe Biden, who told people during a pandemic to go out and vote in Illinois, Arizona, and Florida in their primaries. They should be invalidated, and we should have those elections be, at least those elections, be audited, and well, that means we shouldn't audit those. We should just have the election all over again when it's safe, or have everybody vote from home or digitally and be able to legally verify that the elections are not rigged or manipulated in any way to benefit one candidate or the other. Super Tuesday was a big whole rigged thing, and the exit polls proved that, so I did a video on that a while back, and there's plenty of evidence to look into for the company that still does the exit polls. The raw exit poll data, the original exit polls of who people say they voted for when they left their voting place, do not match and benefit Joe Biden and Bloomberg, for instance, in a state like Maine or Massachusetts, and hurt Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Mostly Bernie Sanders all across the country. Just shameful. Anyway, and this in a so-called democracy. This is why we need to fight for actual democracy. Don't give up on democracy, fight for real democracy. What we have is a capitalist nightmare, or even a globalized economy, and it's not. It's not democracy, but we could attain it, and we need it desperately. The people should have a say in their government, the people should be the government, and the people should get the things they need, and we should base these things on common sense, on passion and heart and empathy, and on doing the right thing for everyone. Anyway, so let's see, where was I? Okay. Again, the guidelines recommended against big group gatherings and urge older people and anyone with existing health problems to stay at home. People were also urged to work at home when possible and avoid restaurants, bars, non-essential travel, and shopping trips. The modeling estimates that the peak in death rate is likely to hit in 2 weeks, Trump told reporters, with the toll already at more than 2,400. Nothing would be worse than declaring victory before the victory is won. That would be the greatest loss of all. He added, "We can expect by June 1st we will be well on our way to recovery." The shift came as the full horror of the pandemic appeared to dawn on a president who long downplayed it. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the government's top infectious disease expert, said the U.S. could experience more than 100,000 deaths and millions of infections. Fauci praised the extension as a wise and prudent decision. Trump cited projection models that said potentially 2.2 million people or more could have died had the country tried to wing it and not put social distancing measures in place. I kept asking, and we did models, he said. These are 2.2 million people. These are 2.2 million people who would have died. And so if we could hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000, it's a horrible number, maybe even less, but to 100,000. So we have between 100,000 and 200,000. We altogether have done a very good job. Unbelievable. Trump also appeared to have been rattled by scenes at Elmhurst Hospital where he grew up in Queens, New York. I've been watching that for the last week on television, he said. Body bags all over in hallways. I've been watching them bring in trailer trucks, freezer trucks, their freezer trucks because they can't handle the bodies. There are so many of them. This is essentially my community in Queens, New York. I've seen things that I've never seen before. Trump had minimized the threat of the coronavirus for weeks and ignored the pleas of Health Secretary to investing in testing kits and breathing apparatus. The House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, told CNN's State of the Union this attitude has cost American lives. The president, his denial at the beginning was deadly, she said. That's the one time I definitely agree with Nancy Pelosi. Trump has long been criticized for refusing to own up to his own mistakes and shifting blame to others. In another lengthy, abrasive press conference, he pushed a conspiracy theory speculating that hospital staff may be stealing N95 masks and selling them on the black market, which you just heard in the video. The current demand does not square with what hospitals usually use, he told reporters. It's a New York hospital, very. It's packed all the time. How do you go from 10 to 20,000 masks per week to 300,000? 10,000 to 20,000 masks to 300,000? Even though this is different? Something is going on. And you ought to look into it as reporters. Are they going out the back door? He added, how do you go from 10,000 to 300,000? And we have that in a lot of different places. So somebody should probably look into that. Because I just don't see, from a practical standpoint, how that's possible to go from that to that. When a reporter asked the president to clarify, he asked for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio to investigate, adding, I don't think it's hoarding. I think it's maybe worse than hoarding. The comments provoked widespread outrage. Joe Kennedy III, a Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, tweeted, we need supplies. We need masks. Our front lines are suffering. Suggesting otherwise is disgusting. Joe Biden, the frontrunner for the Democratic presidential nomination, said, this is ridiculous and completely false. Today's conspiracy mongering from our president is among the most reckless and ignorant moves he has made during this crisis, and there have been many lives hang in the balance. As in previous briefings all week, the president picked fights with individual reporters, including Yamiche Alcindor, a reporter at PBS NewsHour who is a woman of color. When Alcindor questioned him about comments he made during an interview with Fox News' Sean Hannity that suggested state governments were making exaggerated demands, Trump reported, why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always gotcha, getcha. You know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore. He added, look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't be threatening. Be nice. We already saw that and we discussed what that means. So I think this video is getting on long enough. So I wanted to read even more articles of Trump's horrible leadership on the coronavirus, his incompetence, his denial of science, and listen, like, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter, and if you are, I really hope you watch my channel and really appreciate what I'm talking about, because I'm reading you facts, I'm doing research, and I studied political science and history, and I know what I'm talking about, and I care deeply about it, and I'm doing it not to sound smart or be cool, it's to help other people, and not enough people are aware of their history, and if we don't understand our history, we're doomed to repeat it. It's a famous line, and it's a famous line for a reason. So if we don't learn from our mistakes, we just keep repeating them, and that's something we're doing right now, and even worse. It's like think about it. The way President Donald Trump is reacting to a pandemic is like it's 1830, and they're like, oh, gee, golly willikers, we don't know what the hell's going on. People are just dropping dead like flies. Can't figure it out. Yeah, because they didn't have science. We have science, and he is ignoring it and putting us back to the dark ages. So it's just absurd and dangerous, and we need to elect somebody who will do the opposite. So it's very important that you vote in a safe way, and I hope that no other caucuses or primaries are held, because they should be invalidated if they are, and we should audit Super Tuesday, Mini Tuesday, and all the elections that have led up to now, because they clearly are biased against Bernie Sanders and for Joe Biden. So that's blatantly obvious from all the data. Bernie Sanders was supposed to win Super Tuesday handily. Worst case scenario, he was supposed to win 8 of the 15 states, and I believe he won 5 or 6. I don't even know. It's such a scam. I did one of my first videos. I talk about this. I gave a prediction based on data in the first video, in my very first video, and then the second video I talked about just the nightmare and reacted to what happened on Super Tuesday, and I really let out a lot of stress and vented. It's one of my more popular videos. Just check them all out. So please subscribe to Punk Rock Politics and go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics and become a patron and become a member. And it's just $1 a month is the first tier. Please consider giving $1 a month if you can. And it's only $1, and you get extra content, early access to videos, sometimes days in advance or even weeks in advance. You get special videos made just for patrons. And there's all kinds of perks as you go up the ladder, from tier 1 as a member, and then tier 2 as a burner. That's $2.70 in honor of the $27 in 2016. That was the average donation from working Americans to Bernie Sanders' campaign. Then you have a $7 tier, a $10 tier, and Revolutionary is up at $27. Now, the Revolutionary offers all kinds of possibilities, being on the show, getting an internship with Punk Rock Politics, and helping me grow the channel and just put out even more content and really digging into the research, etc. There's all kinds of perks at every level. Give what you can afford. Please become the first person to donate to Punk Rock Politics, and become the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, etc. All right, thanks for joining. I guess real quick, I really wanted to talk more on these issues, but you know what? I think the videos and the articles speak for themselves. We have a dangerous president who is just power hungry and is more concerned about himself than the American people, and it's just shameful. He's more concerned about his election, winning a re-election, because historically, when there's a bad economy, that's what costs presidents' elections. It's the biggest indicator of whether or not a president will win re-election. And it's shameful, and he's putting the lives of every American at risk, and people are dying and suffering just so he can win power. And that should not be a president that you should support. He already shouldn't have been a president you should support, and if you were brought up a certain way, or everybody around you thinks Donald Trump is great, or listens to the wrong people, trust me, if you really care about your family, your community, and the health of your friends, family, daughter, sons, all that stuff, grandparents, everybody, just in general, the United States, then you need to support somebody like a Bernie Sanders, who is fighting for health care for all, which would greatly alleviate the problems of this crisis, who is fighting for higher wages for employees, who is sticking it to Amazon for their dangerous employment of workers during the coronavirus, putting people at risk and overworking them and not paying them enough. And making sure we protect our environment, our water, our air. Donald Trump is getting rid of regulations during the coronavirus for a handout to large corporations that want to pollute and put our health at risk. And then who pays for it? The cleanup, on top of the fact that it's some of it can't be cleaned up, and our water will be permanently screwed up, and we will start having to literally come up with new ways to get clean water that are very costly, including, hopefully, and we will stop this, but the governments fight wars over this stuff. People fight each other in the streets over clean water and food in a lot of countries, and a lot of it's our fault. So let's not make that what happens in America. Let's, because that's an important issue that I've wanted to expand upon more, about how we need to address environmental concerns, especially during this crisis, and not let go of them. And they're trying to distract and sneak in a bunch of horrible, horrible things that will impact our health and the health of the planet for years to come, and possibly end all of human society. So, pay attention, call the White House, call Mitch McConnell, call your senator, call your senators in your state, call your state representatives of Congress, either Congresswoman or Congressman in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's all the information's available online. It's easy to find with your zip code or your address. Find who represents you at all levels of government. Call your governor of your state. Call your like I said, your state and your state representatives, like your state congressman or congresswoman and your state senator. They're called different things in different states, but that's essentially like the state's version of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. Call your local politicians and ask what they're doing. Don't just scream at them and demand things from them, ask them, try to work with them. But if they're not doing the right thing and they're corrupt, then definitely scream at them. Hold people to account is the point. And try to help them. See if you can come up with solutions and get involved and help in a safe way. Practice social distancing, be safe, and let's get Donald Trump out of office. That should be our main goal. But Joe Biden is not the answer. And neither is Andrew Cuomo, who the DNC wants to put in at the convention. Bernie Sanders got the most votes by far. He's the person the people chose. In a real democracy, Bernie Sanders becomes the candidate. He crushes Trump, and he has been for the last 5 years of data. It's not up for debate. And Joe Biden has some very troubling poll numbers. Clearly is a sexist and a rapist, and we will get into that in the next video. I'm giving you as much news as I can, people. So, thanks. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please stay safe. Go to patreon.com/punkrockpolitics and become a patron today. Please. I implore you. All right, everybody. Take care. Be safe. Practice your social distancing.